a minute later, Phil's getting a full-on lap dance by one of the babes.
Right in my face. We're talking about Closer to Heaven. We were very excited about seeing this. It's back, as they used to say in Smash Hits. My name is Phil. We are Boys on Film. Raj is here, of course. And we're joined by a very special guest who is not only a friend, but he is award-winning LGBTQ plus inclusion teacher, Sean Dellenty.
Hello! Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. Oh, we had a good night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think.
We did. We got notes. We got things to discuss. Obviously, that's the reason for this video. Raj, I saw you first. You were patiently waiting for us because we were running a little bit late, myself and Jeremy. You were outside the theatre, Turbine Theatre in London, which is where this is. We had an experience. We were given a laminated square, which I think you have, Raj, on our arrival. One side it says "Stop there," and the other side it says "Let's play." We had tables right by the stage. I mean, you couldn't really wish for a better seat, really, where we were, because we were sat next to each other, which was great as well. But yeah, if you don't want to play, if you don't want to be harassed by the cast, not that they were really harassing us as such, but that's what you need to show. You need to show "Stop there." So I had that on the table. Little did I know, because I wasn't paying attention to what was on the table, that this man here, very naughty boy, turned it over. I got sat on. I had a lap dance by one of the cast members. I think it was one of the Billy's babes. So yeah, that was interesting. That was a bit of an eyeful. I wasn't expecting it, obviously, because I was thinking I was safe, but I wasn't safe at all.
Jeremy and I are sitting there. We all have our stop here's, you know, turned on the table. And then Jeremy and I were going, I wonder what happens if you turn it over, because we haven't seen anything happen. So Phil was busily watching the play. Jeremy turned it over, you know, and then nothing happened. And then literally like a minute later, Phil's getting a full-on lap dance by one of the babes.
Right in my face. I straddled on my legs.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, basically you were getting a full-on lap dance, so I didn't see anyone else get a lap dance that night, so, you know, it was worth the experimentation.
Well, I don't know, Sean did of sorts, because Sean got straddled as well, didn't you? You got sat on.
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it the Muso, you know, the Camp Museum, the random publishing company or whatever it was. Yeah, he landed on my lap near the end, and he was a lovely, big, cuddly man. Yeah, I was kind of going numb underneath him and wanting him to get off, but it was a nice cuddle, you know, cuddles are good. We need more cuddles in the world.
Yeah, and it's that kind of show, isn't it? Because it's very intimate. I mean, there's like, I don't know, what, 90 people in that theatre, because it's a very small theatre. It reminded me a little bit of Above the Stag that used to be at Vauxhall.
Unlike the Union Theatre as well, which is where I saw Closer to Heaven in whenever it was, 2019 maybe, or even earlier actually, I think.
We've all seen it first time round. I mean, there's a lot that I don't remember, but of course the music by the Pet Shop Boys is what everybody raves about. And of course Jonathan Harvey, who's, you know, the playwright for this, he's written the story, and I mean, his reputation, Beautiful Thing, Gimme, 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 you know, Coronation Street as well. I mean, he's such a fantastic writer. Bizarrely, though, I mean, when this first launched, the reviews were mixed, weren't they?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's always been about the score. I love the score. I loved it from the first time I heard it. I remember getting like a preview EP, actually, with one of the newspapers gave them out. I've still got that somewhere. You know, when I first saw it at the Arts Theatre on September the 11th, 2001, I literally just come to London and kind of was just discovering this other world that I actually felt that I wanted to be part of, and kind of Closer to Heaven, the music and the piece itself very much almost laid out a roadmap for the next 10 years of my life, I suppose. But what really drew me in, I think, was the score, and to this day I play it regularly. I love the songs, I love the music, I love the feel of them. And what's interesting is, you know, I've seen it, I think I've seen 4 or 5 different versions of it now. And for me, it's always about how it evolves and changes over time, and how those songs, even after all this time, my God, nearly 25 years, still sound fresh, still sound amazing, and still inspire me, move me, make me want to dance.
Yeah, the songs are incredible. Raj, do you remember it first time around? You saw it when it first came out?
Yeah, the very first run of it, I believe, at the Arts Theatre. I can't even remember how long ago that was, but I remember seeing it, you know, as someone fairly new to London be like, oh wow, this is so cutting edge, this is so like amazing, and you know, like you fell in love with the score and the soundtrack, and you know, I probably put the soundtrack on once a year just to listen to it and reminisce, and yeah, I haven't seen it since, so I kind of, even though I know the songs, I kind of forgot what the storyline was, so it was really nice to see it kind of updated and fresh, and I believe somewhat new sort of staging, because I don't remember it being like it was staged how we saw it at the Turbine Theatre. But yeah, it was a very nice visit down memory lane for me.
We'll talk about that stage set because it is different, because it's more of a club setting this time around. But the music is fantastic. So many great songs, because of course some of those songs were released on the Nightlife album that they released, and of course the soundtrack that we talked about as well, that came out as well. So yeah, I mean, the songs are great in musical form, because you think Pet Shop Boys, you know, we all love that band as a musical band, but would it have worked as a musical? And I think the songs do. So they've obviously got that flair, haven't they? They've got that theatrical flamboyance, if you like.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I remember the first run of reviews, and it comes up every time the show is reinvented or revived. The same kind of comments appear in the reviews, and it's usually around the book. It's usually around it's usually around how kind of narrowly drawn the characters are and the stories, and there's quite a lot of stories going on, but none of them go into any great depth. But I was reflecting on that, and I was thinking, well, this is, it's a depiction of clubland, and actually, without stereotyping people that go to clubs, a lot of that can be quite shallow and quite, fly by night and in the moment. So in that respect, it does, I think it's quite an authentic depiction as well, in some respects anyway. I think the version of it that I saw in 2015, actually, at the Union Theatre, started to sort of work a bit on the characterizations a bit more, and played around with the dialogue a bit. And definitely the version 2019 and Above the Stag of Vauxhall, that to me felt like the most kind of fleshed out version of it I'd seen. And actually, if you look back at the reviews of that production of it, that's reflected in the reviews at the time. People are kind of going, okay, it's not the greatest book in the world, but at least they've tried to move it on and it works. And interestingly, the reviews of this version, I think I'm seeing a bit more criticism of the book again. So I think with this show, it's quite hard to balance the book and the wonderful score and kind of get that right, as well as making it a really fun, flamboyant, outrageous night out.
That's a really good point you made, Sean, because I think, we spoke about this briefly when we came out, and, Jeremy, my partner, said, it does seem a bit dated, the story. But then I suppose it is of its time, isn't it? Because, we're thinking it's 25, God, it is nearly 25 years ago, when it first surfaced. And, Clubland was kind of like that, and also because he's a comedy writer as well, he's a great drama writer, but Jonathan Harvey, he's got some real witty one-liners, and it's got to be fun and a bit over the top in some respects.
I've walked away from this version going, oh, that was good camp fun, that's exactly what I needed on a night out. But it does differ to when I first saw it, where I really thought it was a very serious piece of theater that had a message, and I'm just wondering now how it would resonate with young people who maybe I saw it when who are my age when I first saw it. We live in a different time and a different culture now, so would they understand what was going on? Because there's a lot of inappropriate stuff going on that is of its time, but they haven't really updated that for today. So, and if you looked at the people who are sitting in the audience, they were probably all around our age, who all
if not older,
appreciate a piece of that time. But I'm wondering what the younger generation might think of it.
It is a good point. It really is. I mean, let's talk about a couple of those people that are in the audience, because I found out that Armistead Maupin was in the crowd, which is crazy because I didn't even see him. I mean, did you guys see him?
No. No, not at all.
Unless I was thinking maybe he had a VIP seat, but it's such a small theatre, I don't think there are. Like, I mean, it's certainly, there's certainly not booths or anything. Everyone's kind of all together, really, aren't they? It's quite intimate.
Well, you had the VIP seat, basically.
The lap dance seat. And can we also talk about your friend, Sean, who you introduced us to? She's gorgeous.
Katie Manning, Doctor Who legend Katie Manning. She played Jo Grant, who was the companion to John Pertwee's Doctor. I think she first joined the series. I think the first series she filmed was about 1971. So she's been in it a long time, and she went out of it and then recently came back in it. She worked with Matt Smith's Doctor, and most recently she was in Jodie Whittaker's last story as well. But she's just amazing. I mean, I think she's 78. She's
oh my
like
God.
a light bulb.
I couldn't believe that, because she's a little firecracker.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what you get for going to school with Liza Minnelli, because she went to school with Liza, and she's good mates with Liza. So can you imagine a night out with those two? Oh my goodness,
incredible! Yeah, that would be a real firecracker in itself. So let's talk about the story then. For Closer to Heaven, I mean, summing it up, you could sum it up pretty quickly, I guess. It's narrated initially by a retired rock icon and actress who's Billy Trix, who this time around is played by Frances Raphael, and of course, you know, the original actress was Frances Barber, and I think there are similarities there. I don't know whether she was trying to emulate Frances Barber or whether that was just the character, because of course Frances Barber is playing a role as well, so it's not her, but there are certain similarities, I think, with the voice and the behaviour. I guess that's the character, isn't it?
She was much more physical. There was a much stronger physical energy to her performance, I thought. I mean, she was almost like Puck at times in Midsummer Night's Dream. She was kind of everywhere all of the time, bouncing around the stage. The kind of impact of that on me was it made her feel almost like the child of Billy Trix in a way. She felt quite young and quite youthful and energetic, and that's slightly odds with me for the character who's supposed to be this jaded, you know, 60s washed up pop star who thinks she's much more famous and influential than she actually is. So actually I struggled with that for a bit in the first half, but actually the second half, when things went dark, and on the whole I think the second act was much stronger, suddenly I was like, oh, there she is, now I can see Billy. Yeah, there she is, you know.
Yeah, I thought the second act was stronger as well, because I think the Caligula scene is, I know it's meant to be bonkers, but it's totally nuts, and I think it does kind of come off tracks a little bit. I don't know whether that's intentional. I suppose it is to a certain extent, but I think the mood does shift. But then the second half does go dark, and I love that drama. I love the way it played out. But yeah, I thought she was great. But again, I agree with you. I was struggling a bit with the age thing. I don't even know how old Frances Raphael is. Is she late 40s?
Yeah, I would think so. But yeah, there was a kind of youthful quality. There was almost like a Bjork. I thought of Bjork a few times, actually. I think it was the hair. I
couldn't get my eyes off her. I was totally transfixed by her performance and just her stage presence. Because she's, I guess that's a fun character to play as well. But what did you think of her, Raj? Who was your favourite, by the way, out of the cast?
I don't know. I can't really say I had a favourite. I just really liked the casting as a whole. I mean, I felt like there was a very good, diverse cast this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, in all shapes and body sizes, and you know, I really appreciated that. Like, definitely different from how I first saw it. I really liked the club owner's daughter. I thought she did a really nice job. Very
She's great.
Sweet. Yes, a real range of talent there. But yeah, from the babes to Billy Trix, I just kind of like them all, really. No complaints from me.
Let's just name check them. So we've got Straight Davis, played by Glenn Adamson. Vic Christian, played by Kirk Hansley. Bob Saunders, of course, is the record exec, the record guy that sat on your knee, Sean. At the end. David Muscat, I thought he was great. A real comedic role as well. Billy Trix, of course, we mentioned. Who else was there? Marlon Lee, Connor Carson. Yeah, I thought the cast was strong. I don't think there was any weak links, really.
No,
overall.
I think actually the one thing that I really took away from this was the quality of the singing and the voices. And actually that was my main takeaway was, you know, I was really blown away by some of the singing, particularly, as you've already mentioned, actually, Courtney Bowman as Shell. I thought she really, that's quite a thankless role on paper. You know, it's so thinly sketched. And she's in all of these really bizarre situations that don't really ring true, but she brought a warmth to it. She brought humour, humanity. I thought she felt quite fresh and current, and I really enjoyed her performance. And the other highlight for me was Connor Carson as Myland Lee. He, A, was lovely to look at, and B, I just thought he was really grounded with his performance, and he very much was taking me back to the original performance where I'm trying to think who it was. Tom Walker, I think, played Mile-End Lee, and again had this very calm, grounded quality to his performance, and I could feel that in this version, and I really thought he brought a lot to the production. Actually, I kind of wanted to see more, really.
Shell, who's going to see her father that she hasn't seen for years, and he turns out to be, well, he's running the gay club, isn't he, in London, and he's involved with drugs, as much of the cast are, to be honest, because it's of that very hedonistic time. She falls in love with Straight Dave, and then he's caught out in the loos. Yeah, of course, yeah. Caught out in the loos, not just kissing, but doing a bit more than that in the toilets. And that's another thing about this stage set as well, because it's kind of simple. I suppose they're limited with what they have at that theatre, because it's not, you know, it's not massive theatre, but I think they made use of that quite cleverly with a couple of monitors that they swung around just to obviously hide out the way when they weren't in use, and the monitors were showing CCTV footage from the club. So I think that was okay. I thought that was done quite well with what limits they had.
Yeah, I thought the staging was good, and I liked the kind of depth it gave at the back of the stage, the kind of feeling that there was more beyond the kind of door that we could see. And actually, I checked back to the original production, and they did actually use CCTV then as well, but they used it to a kind of greater degree, which I guess reflects our modern world, but also allowed them to kind of make the space feel a bit bigger, because it is quite a small space, isn't it? Yeah. And I thought the lighting design was great as well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's very blue, and then of course red when the danger stuff comes in. when you know all that drug, the K-hole scenes. Raj, are you into this kind of production where it's smaller, a bit more limited, I suppose, and not so big budget compared to like the West End musicals? I mean, I kind of like it when it's a bit up close and personal.
I think for a production like this, it really felt intimate. It felt like we were in the club having, you know, a night out, and, you know, you got a story along with it. So I thought it really worked. I've never actually been out to the new sort of Battersea area either. So it was kind of a mini adventure, really, for the whole day. Discovered a new theater, got to reminisce about production that I really like, and, you know, learned something new. Watch Phil get a lap dance. It was great.
Yeah, what's not to like?
I just I looked at the cast member. I was trying to think who it was that was to give me that lap dance, and it was Kean Hughes, who was one of the babes, but I think it was him. Pretty sure it was him. It all happened so quickly, and I was so shocked by it when it happened, because obviously I was thinking, hang on a minute, I didn't give you permission to do this, but then realised when I looked down at the table that I hadn't given permission, but Raj and Jeremy had given permission for me to do that, for have that done.
On a serious note, though, I think that's quite a good idea, because, you know, I was there with my husband Mike, who you know, and to Mike, his idea of hell is going to a theatre and somebody interacting with him, whereas I'm quite happy to be down the front and be interacted with. I guess that's because I used to be an actor myself, I suppose. But I'd never seen that done before, and I actually thought it was a really good idea and kind of put him in a space of safety, or so he thought. But I thought it was a good idea. I actually felt that it could have been more immersive and there could have been more interaction. Actually, I was quite surprised at how limited the interactions were, and also I noticed the other side of the room got free shots. We didn't, so
that's
I might go again.
Yeah, because the girl that came round, I think actually I don't know. I was going to name check her, but I can't remember. Is it Beth Kernock, maybe? One of the other babes. She came around with a tray full of shots, and she was talking to me. She talked to me twice, and she kept saying, "Would you like a shot? Are you going to get up and dance? Have a shot?" And I looked down at the glasses, and they were empty, and I was kind of disappointed by that, because I was thinking I quite fancy a shot actually to get me in the mood. But no. And then one fell off the tray and fell on the floor.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, a fun show. I was going to be picky and mention that certain scenes didn't gel quite as well as I'd hoped, but I don't know whether that was because it was a tiny theatre and they had restraints, or whether it was just the direction. I mean, overall, I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really fun show, but I think certain scenes, I looked around and I could see the audience weren't sure whether to clap or not, and there were times when I was about to clap after someone had done this big song, and I felt like I couldn't because nobody else was doing it, and I felt a bit, I don't know, a bit conscious about that, self-conscious.
You often get that in a smaller space, I think, because when you're in a big theatre, the kind of rules are very well established. You know, you've got the cast on the stage, you're in the audience, and you can kind of clap at the right moments. I think in musicals, and particularly in a more intimate space, that starts to break down, and people are worried that if they clap, no one else is going to clap, and because it's a small space, they're going to look like a seal clapping there on their own. But I also think, having seen, what, 4 or 5 different versions of it, and I will cut it some slack because it was early in the run as well, so they're probably still finding their way. There were moments in it that felt awkward to me and felt like they weren't landing that I've always seen land before. So I came away kind of questioning that, and it almost made me want to go and see it further on in the run to see if those things had kind of evened out a little bit, because I did think you alluded to the Caligula scene earlier on. When I've seen that before, that's like a really big moment and really fun and outrageous. Yeah. And for me, it didn't land. It fell flat, and I couldn't quite figure out why. It
didn't. Did you pick up on that, Raj? Because that was definitely the moment where I thought, hang on, this isn't quite working. I couldn't quite work out why either. I don't know whether it was an energy thing, because obviously a lot of the music has to be fairly lower in volume because of the size of the venue, and I don't know whether it would work with a louder sound system to give it that energy.
I felt like the Caligula scene and the K-hole scene were really watered down from what I remember. I remember them being bigger productions, so maybe the Caligula scene, the costumes were very, like, off the rack from costume.
That's a good point. Yeah, I thought that too, actually.
Yeah. You know, whereas, you know, they did have some nice costume moments, especially with Billy Tricks, but I just thought they didn't really quite hit the nail on the head with the Caligula performance. I just remember it being much grander, and the K-hole scene being a bit more orgy-like, and I don't know. I mean, I saw it 25 years ago, so I just kind of expected more of it.
I think the original production, you know, it was at the Arts Theatre. I'm sure it was the Really Useful company that pumped money into it, so it was definitely like a bigger scale production. And I think you're right, Raj. I think the Caligula scene was pretty, you know, extravagant and sexy and outrageous, and this kind of version of it didn't compare. Every version of it I've seen kind of has to squeeze it into quite a small space. It would be nice. It would be nice actually to see it produced in a big theatre again, just to see what could be done with it now, you know.
I was just going to say that because I totally understand the budget restraints, and you know, it's a small theatre. It's it's a good cast, and obviously, you know, that's an expense, isn't it, with the amount of people that are involved, and lighting people, costume people, makeup people. So I get all that. I do understand that. And I suppose if you're in a bigger theatre, you don't see so much in detail because we were so close to those outfits and those cast members that maybe, you know, theatre is all about illusion. So maybe if you were at a distance, it wouldn't look so off the rack. Maybe. So I suppose, you know, that's a bad thing, isn't it? To be so close in a way. It's quite brave of them to put us so close to them. I mean, you could kind of feel them breathing on you, really, can't you, the cast?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel a few of them spitting on me and accidentally, you know, because we were
don't want to name and shame. Should we talk about that music again? Because obviously the Pet Shop Boys music, I mean, it's great. There's some great songs. One song which I remember being a highlight, Positive Role Model. I hear that the Pet Shop Boys weren't keen on it, so they haven't included it this time around.
I have a lot to say about that.
Excellent. Perfect guest.
I mean, Raj, I don't know about you, but that, to me, that was like, when I saw that back in 2001, the whole place was just up, you know, reaching for the poppers, and it ended it. But it was a great song. It was a great song, and it really lifted the room. But importantly, it also served as Straight Dave's kind of moment of becoming, because it was supposed to be his single, his big, you know, debut single. Every version of it I've seen since, because the Pet Shop Boys got funny for whatever reason about the song, which, by the way, has a blinding almighty mix that they used to play every Sunday at the Vauxhall Tavern.
That's very Poppers o'clock, isn't it? That almighty remix.
It's on YouTube. Check it out. Every version I've seen of it subsequently has to do something else with the ending, and every version I've seen of it has been different. So Above the Stag used vocal. They've dropped in which kind of worked, and then during the hedonism scene, I think they played Positive Role Model kind of in the back of the club briefly. This version was interesting because, did you see Music at the Trafalgar I think, was it Leicester Square? The sequel to Closer to Heaven.
I did see that. It was amazing, yeah.
But there were 4 songs written, or 3 songs written for that. And Friendly Fire was in it, I think, as well, from Closer to Heaven. So the final song in this version of Closer to Heaven, which is For Every Moment, which was done as a duet initially between Billy and Straight Dave, that's from music. And I thought that was really smart that you have this sequel to a show that was done 20 years ago, and now one of the songs from that has been put in the original production. But then after that, Joy of Joy, they did My Night as a reprise. And I think My Night is one of the best opening songs to a musical I've ever heard. So to go back to it at the end, I was beside myself. And I think make more of that. Make more of that.
I heard you. You gasped. You were very ecstatic at the end there. Audibly ecstatic.
Bit of weed came out. I was so excited.
Yeah, so Francis Ravel, I thought captivating, couldn't take my eyes off her. Lewis Brown also plays Flynn, is also really funny as well. And he hasn't necessarily got a big role, but I couldn't stop watching him. He's got great comedic timing as well, and he's the one with the smoky eye and the goatee beard. It's quite flamboyant, quite camp, and yeah, I thought he was great. I really enjoyed it. I know it is flawed, and like I say, it's probably a little bit dated, but it is of its time, so I think that's understandable. And I think there are loads of elements to like with this, especially new production. And it's really good to hear vocal, and it's good to hear more of the recent Pet Shop Boys songs. Some of them obviously instrumental, played in the club scenes, and I did. My foot was tapping, and I felt quite energized by that soundtrack.
I have to say, I just loved all the the 90s songs that they played in the beginning and during the interval.
This video, by the way. This video.
It did make me feel like I was right back there in the clubs. So it was fun. It's like a little time capsule.
Yeah, and I think it's worth seeing. And like I said, I think there will be a lot of Pet Shop Boys fans, maybe people that have seen the original. I've seen a lot of people posting actually on socials asking me if it's as good as the original. I think it's kind of different, isn't it, in a way as well?
It's different. But then it would be, because we're many years later and it's being made under different circumstances with a different budget and things have moved on. I think the thing about Closer to Heaven is when you go and see it, if you saw it 25 years ago, you were at a different point in your life. Now we're all 25 years older. We're in a different place in our life, and we relate to the material in a different way. So as Raj says, for some of us, it's a very nostalgic, quite moving experience, really, to be reminded of that time in Clubland and in our lives and in the world when things were bloody simpler, and easier and freer. And from that perspective, I found it quite moving just to be hearing the songs again. But I think this version is great. Go and see it. I don't think it's the definite version of it. I actually think the definite version of it is still to be made.
Do you think it will be made again?
Oh, yeah, I think it will be, but it'll be small scale, as we've seen. But I hope that they continue to work on the book, and I hope at some point they continue to put back in Positive Role Model.
Yeah, because that was the one song that I really remember, and it's kind of, even though it's not, the show's not called Positive Role Model, it was kind of iconic and memorable. Yeah,
and was going to be a single just before the show was cancelled.
That's right, yeah, because they shut the show, didn't they? And then they didn't release it. Yeah,
Paul Keating recorded it, and I think there were a couple of mixes. I think he may have even made a video actually. And then the show was pulled, and that was that. What a shame.
I wonder whether that's why the Pet Shop Boys don't like it, because it reminds them of a difficult time with, obviously with the show getting negative reviews or mixed reviews.
Yeah, people weren't that kind to it. I think it is very niche, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is very niche. Not everybody's lived the lives that we have lived and sometimes still live, which is another reason why I think its ability to transfer and get to a wider audience is quite limited, because there's a lot of very niche references, and if we're honest, a lot of drug taking as well, which can put
bloody hell off. I was thinking that. I mean, I remember it first time around as being very druggy, but this time around I was like, God, you're putting your foot on the drug accelerator. But yeah, it's running until the 30th of June at the Turbine Theatre in London. I mean, like Raj said earlier, a great little venue and a great location. And we saw Battersea Power Station all lit up in red as we were coming out. It's kind of romantic in a strange way. I mean, a good date night theatre show.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and the staff were great. Staff were lovely, helpful, nice space. Happy days.
So there we go. That's the programme.
That's my original.
Look at
that's
that.
My original and very rare Billy Trix CD single of her one and only hit, Run Girl Run.
Wow.
Which they sold at the original run. It's quite limited now. I've still got it. Yeah, nice souvenir.
And it's in good condition.
Unlike me, it still works.
Oh, I don't know. Very good for your age. The lady never talks about her age, but
thank you.
Will
dear.
you disclose?
I'll pay you later.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Please subscribe. See you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Seen the show. Bye.